Welcome to Laser Reviews. My name is Arvid, and I spend a lot of my spare time watching movies. A lot of those movies I watch turn out to be, well, a big waste of time, which is why I decided to give you my recommendations for which movie franchises, which movies to stay away from, and which to watch. And today I will be covering a fairly small, but also often forgotten franchise, the Omen franchise, starting with The Omen from 1976. There are 5 movies in total and a TV series, but I have not watched the TV series, only the movies. The movie begins in Rome, where the Thorn family is giving birth to a son. The son then dies without the mother knowing, and this Catholic hospital persuades the father to adopt this child of another woman who died in childbirth. So he's basically adopting this son of another woman without the mother knowing it, thinking it's her own son. And then it skips to 5 years later, where Thorn, the man, is ambassador to London for USA, and basically he adopted the son of Satan. That's the whole premise. So this son of Satan, now living in London with a family, this rich family, ends up killing people all around him, either by with his own powers or through the help of satanic helpers, such as satanic dogs, this maid that shows up to look after the child. After the first maid is killed off, basically he kills off the maid to make room for this new Satanist who will protect the child. And it's all done to fulfill this prophecy of Satan coming back to alive, the end of days, yada yada. That's what this all is going to lead up to. And then throughout the movie, as more and more people getting hurt, including the mother, the father catches on to something might be wrong, as everybody who tries to warn him about something being wrong, such as crazy local priests, are killed off in freak accidents. So they go to this Middle Eastern country. I don't know if it's Israel, Palestine, or if it's somewhere else. It's in the movie, but I just forgot where it is. To get these sacred daggers, which are the only things that can kill the child. And they have to look for this birthmark in the back of the head, spelling 666. Well, it said it's somewhere on the body, but since the father hasn't seen it yet, it's probably because it's covered by hair, so that's why we know it. And well, it's overall, the premise of the movie is fairly simple, but also quite complex in the way it plays out. The acting is really good, and even though it's from 76, it actually has some decent effects. It has some scenes that should be quite gory, but aren't because of the limitation of the time, but also because of the style of the movie. This is not a gore movie, this is a scary movie, this is like a religious scare or a satanic scare, a thriller, and I would say it still holds up. I was surprised because I knew I had seen some of this movie as a child, but then I went back thinking I didn't think it would hold up. I think movies like The Exorcist still holds up, in my opinion, and that came out around the same time. So why not this one? So I gave it a chance, and I was pleasantly surprised. It's actually a really, really well-made movie. It doesn't feel that quirky. Some of the acting feels a bit stiff, and you do get a bit tired of the theme of this movie as it goes on. The sound design could use a bit of extra work. It's not bad, it's just a bit repetitive. And some of the way things escalate might not be brilliant, but it is a good movie, and it has a lot of suspense, it has a lot of dramatic moments. And that is also why this is probably one of the most parodied or quoted movies in pop culture. And we even have the the Good Omen books and TV series. I have only seen the TV series, which is brilliant. And I had no idea that so much of it is not only based on Omen, of course, but also the Omen sequels, which of course I'll get into in a second. And I'll just say one thing, that with all the adaptations we have in movie history, this is actually original. This is not based on any book, and I was also pleasantly surprised to see that, because I'm always a bit sad to see, oh, this is an amazing movie. Oh, they also only got the idea from someone else, but not in this case. So the first movie, quite brilliant, but could this hold up? Could it really be that we actually have a good franchise for once? 5 movies? Maybe. Let's go to the second one. So the sequel, Damien, Omen II, came out 2 years later, and we now follow Damien as he is in his foster family. The foster family are relatives, so it's still a Thorn family. And it's taking place some 6, 7 years later as he is now 13. He's with his foster brother. And this old lady knows something is wrong and tries to warn the family about them not spending time together. But of course, the new parents, the foster parents, don't want to have it. And I think so. The first movie had a dog to be like the guardian. This movie has a really murderous crow. I hope I'm not wrong. It might be a raven. I'm not good with birds. It's a very black bird and it kills people and it's silly. I think my overall impression about this movie is it's not bad. I actually quite enjoyed it. I think it's a completely mediocre horror movie with some actually quite good kills. It's still not bloody because it's just a very restrained movie in that sense, but it has some good kills. It has maybe a too convoluted plot in some ways. This time we elaborate a bit. So in the first movie, it seemed that Damien was a bit aware of he was hurting people. In this one, he's a bit less aware of it. It just kind of happens, and he's surrounded by loyal Satanists. One of them being an officer of the school who tells him that he should read this and this passage in the Bible because he's the offspring of the devil. And he's not happy about these news. He's not happy about being the son of the devil, which I think is a good dynamic. I think it's actually quite interesting to see this reluctant teenager who's going through bullying and all this shit in his life and just, you know, oh, on top of all the hormonal stuff, you're also the son of Satan. I think that's a really good idea to do it this way. I do think it's a bit weird. There's way too many people in this movie. A lot of the people were killed off. I had no idea who they were. I had no idea what the relation was. A lot of the kills are also a bit not that interesting. It's the plot is a bit all over the place. He hacks into a computer with his mind, or Satan does, or whatever. And the ending is again quite okay. So this time the Order again tries to persuade now his foster father about him being the son of the devil, and it's quite good. I don't want to spoil the ending, but the ending is quite good, but also very abrupt. But it is a fine movie. It's not immensely good. It's also not terrible, and I think it is watchable. It's more stupid than the first one, and it's even more convoluted than the first one, but it can be watched. So is the third movie as mediocre. It's called Omen III, The Final Conflict. So already with a title like that, I thought this is not going to be good. That's a very, very bad title in my opinion. It's from 1981, and Damien is now played by samneill, which was an interesting choice. This is one of samneill's first movies. It came out the same year as Possessed, which is a lovely movie. It's completely different from this, but also a bit satanic and occult. And it's to me it's a much better movie than this one, and it's also a much better performance by samneill. Samneill, if you don't know him, I think his most famous role is in the first Jurassic Park and the third Jurassic Park movie. But yeah, no, he's not the most well-known actor. His performances in this one is so mediocre and borderline bad at moments that I think what really holds these movies up and what is the reason why they sometimes don't work is the acting. The first one works because the acting is so good. The second one still has fine acting. This one has mediocre or below mediocre acting, and is now 32 years old. And he's running this Thorn corporation, which is a very powerful corporation. The movie but just starts out with him explaining that they are having a coup. They call it a coup, which is not what they talk about. What actually happens is that they blow up the Aswan Dam in Egypt, flooding and killing, I think they say, maybe 60,000 Egyptians, and blame the Nubian Liberation Front or something. So it's not a coup. That's not what a coup is. It's a conspiracy. It's not a coup. So I don't know why the movie uses that word. And of course, Israel is blamed for this attack because the movie is from 1981. So this is after Israel actually signed this. Wow. This is after Israel and Egypt signed peace. They did that in 1980. I didn't think about that before. So yeah, I don't know. They could have picked something else. But I don't know. Why not? Sure. Yeah, of course, Arabs and Israelis are always at each other's throat, even when they aren't, because movie magic and people not knowing history. Wonderful. And that's actually even more true of this movie because this movie keeps saying, "Oh, of course, it's about politics. It's all about politics," and they just say that line all over. And I don't know how this movie makes no sense. This is a very, very, very stupid movie that, nonetheless, is actually okay. It is still mediocre, a bit below mediocre, but still not terrible. And I think a lot of it is the insanity of it. So, as samneill just as Damien explains that yes, we need to create this coup so we can bring about the end of the world and the new realm of Satan to his loyal advisor. The loyal advisor just says, "Oh, okay, sure, let's go with it," as if that guy has never heard about this plan before. And he just goes on with it, along with it, because why not? Let this bring about the end of the world. I guess so. The protagonist antagonist is Damien because he's the lead character. So the people trying to stop him is this monastic order of Catholic priests who bought the dagger at an auction because that's what you do. So they're trying to kill him with these daggers. And I should say, at this point, he actually is also appointed the new ambassador to London, to UK from the United States, because as a part of the revelation, as a part of the prophecy, he has to be in London. That's where London and Rome is where the new end of days will take place. So that's why he has to be in London. I think that's why how it works. So they also the Satan kills the ambassador. I don't know, say satanic mind possession, whatever. And I don't know how this works. The universe has no established rules at this point. So sometimes it's him, sometimes it's Satan, sometimes it's the dog, and the dog often brings Satan with it. So even if they chase away the dog, the satanic dog, Satan stays behind and corrupts people's minds. It's really, really stupid. And nothing is explained. And should they explain it? Not really. But then again, maybe they should because it just doesn't make sense. Um, and then to bring around, so then Jesus Christ, as a part of the end of days, Jesus Christ has to be born. That's how the reckoning comes. So he feels that Jesus is born. So if he knows which day it is, because he can feel his life energy being tapped, Jesus is born in United Kingdom because that's in the prophecy as well. So he gathers these disciples and order them all to kill every child born on this date. And there's this really stupid scene with all the disciples lined up in this pit, this gravel pit, I guess. And there are no lights shown in it, but there are these very not squares, sorry, very circular spotlights going all around, and he's having this very, very stupid speech where he just repeats things over and over, like, "Oh, if you succeed, we will bring about the end of days and the realm of Satan. If you fail, you will die without nobody ever knowing about your name," or something like that. And he even says, "Oh, let's waste no time." And he goes on to continue speech for much longer than that, because let's waste no time, let's make haste, and then he doesn't. It's a very bad speech, a very stupid moment in the movie, which is followed by probably what should be the most entertaining part of the movie, or at least the wildest part, because we get a montage of babies getting murdered. We don't, of course, it's not graphic, but we do see a preacher probably drowning a baby. I think that's what happens. We see a nurse just going into a nursery and just killing babies. We see two Boy Scouts killing a baby. We see a lady just being hit in the head with a football, and so she loses a grip on the stroller, and it just rushes in front of a car and is blasted away. So actually, I don't know. I don't know enough about babies, but if they're all born on the same day, how come some babies are already in strollers, and how come some are still in the nursery? I don't know. That puzzled me a bit. Again, I don't know enough about babies. Maybe there's a big difference in how healthy they can be and how quickly you can take them home with you. And this, of course, makes a news story. So this new reporter lady who already has a relation with Thorn, with Damien, is trying to investigate why all these babies are dying, while at the same time the assistant of Damien also had a son who was born almost at this time. He says he was born just slightly before midnight, or sorry, before the turn to that day. But Damien just insists that he kills the child. At this point, he snaps and doesn't want to help Damien anymore. But why? What future is there for your child if Satan takes over the world or if the world is destroyed? I don't know what all these Satanists believe will happen after Judgment Day. I don't know. I really don't know what they believe will happen. But sure, that's how the movie happens. But because he doesn't want to kill the child, Satan possesses his wife, and she kills the child with a hot iron off screen, which is so fucking brutal. And she even kills him on screen with a hot cloth iron, and it's quite brutal. I mean, the effects are not brutal at all, but just the ideas of it. And yeah, no, the ending is so weird. Has angels and everything. It's such a yeah, it's a shit show. It's a very messed up movie. I don't know why you would watch it because it's so the things that work about it are so mediocre. And although I make it sound quite insane and maybe so bad it's good, it's not because these things are too few and far between. Mostly I was just bored watching it. So yeah, sadly I was bored. This is not a good movie. It's not a terrible one, it's just a really stupid one. So we had to wait 10 years for this next film. And there's a good reason for that. Not spoiling too much, let's just say evil didn't triumph in the third movie. So, how do they make a sequel to it? So, 1991, Omen IV, The Awakening. And I don't know if it was the copy I had of it, but this movie looks so cheap. It looks like a VHS straight to VHS. It's really bad looking. The acting is terrible this time. It's not the son of Satan, it's the daughter of Satan, but then it's also the son of Satan, it's revealed. And it's more the sound design is so terrible that it reminded me a bit of the Puppet Master series at times. It's almost like Dennis the Menace, just with murder, because it's goofy, it's all over the place, it's tonally just a mess. I don't know, I don't even want to talk much about it because it's just so bad. I'd luckily already forgot much about it. I think one of the other dynamics is this time it's the mother, not the father, who realizes something is wrong and the baby should die. But other than that, it just retreads all the steps of the first one. Then the babysitter dies. They again have a devil dog. They have to be warned by these people in their life, and of course people don't. But this time, honestly, I zoned so much out watching this that I don't even remember how she comes to realize that the baby is evil. I think she just has this idea brewing in her because people die all around her and the child is so nonchalant about it. Yeah, I think that's actually more how it happens. I'm sorry, I watched this movie yesterday and I already forgotten everything about it. It's such a damn boring movie that I just can't recommend it. It's terrible. But it's not as terrible as the remake. So the remake, The Omen, came out in 2006. Have you seen the first one? If you have, you've seen this one. This movie retreads every single scene. It's a shot by shot remake of the first movie, just with terrible acting. Mostly terrible acting. Some of it is mediocre, but the Damien is now a terrible actor. The mother is a terrible actress. The nurse is not terrible. She's just nothing compared to the nurse the maid of the first movie. I think the only thing this movie does better is when they're in the Middle East, there is a head decapitation scene in both movies. This time they changed it a bit, and it looks better. And the reason for why the head is decapitated is also a bit better. But first of all, the only good thing I can say about the movie. Everything else sucks. And not only the only good thing, but also the only thing they really changed from the first one. Also, I think there's more snow Again, I zoned out a bit because they changed locations all the time from London and Rome and the Middle East, and suddenly they are I think they are in Rome because yes, they I don't know how this works. They're in Rome, but it's snowy. There, this graveyard is completely snowy, and thinking about it, I don't think Rome ever has that much snow. I've been to Rome. I've been to Italy. Not during the winter. No, just a few kilometers. I don't know how much further south it is. 100 kilometers or whatever to Napoli. Maybe it's 200 or 300. To Naples, they almost never get snow. So having so much snow in this wintry landscape, while in London around the same time it didn't really snow, and even in central Rome, a few it didn't really snow. It's outside. It's just such a mess. This is such a bad movie, and there's nothing I can talk about other than it being bad because it does everything the first movie does, just worse. So this is just a really bad movie. So I that's it. Five movies talked about. Of those five movies, I can firmly recommend the first one. The second one, you can give it a go. The third one, I don't see why you should watch it. And the fourth and the remake, never ever watch them. They're terrible. But just not to end it here, I decided to watch the OG Satanic Child movie, Rosemary's Baby. At least that's the one that comes to my mind when we talk about the OG Satanic Child movie. Because it's a movie I'd seen as a kid and never really rewatched. And I had a feeling that it would be really boring. And I'm very split about this movie. It's it is a bit boring, but it's also very, very, very well made. The sound design is quite minimalistic, but also good. It has a very good theme song, or main soundtrack, opening and closing. The acting is really, really good. That's what sells this movie. The acting is phenomenal. The cinematography is good. Of course, the technology available at the time did have some limitations, but they have some good ways to make dream sequences. So, what really works in this movie, if you haven't seen it before, that's why I will not. Oh shit! I kind of already spoiled it. Fuck. Um. Hmm. I think most people who have heard about this movie knows that it's about satanic spawn. And why this movie would have been amazing to go into blind is because it's basically a psychological thriller or psychological horror where you don't know if she is being paranoid, schizophrenic, or just paranoid, thinking everybody in the house block is out to get her, or if there actually is a satanic cult after her. And it's this dynamic that works very well in the movie, but it's also this dynamic that when you know that she is right, much of the movie somewhat falls apart. So it's not that thrilling, it's not as engaging, it's still very well made, but I wasn't really that immersed. I'm really sad that I don't like it more because this is a good movie. On paper this movie kicks ass, but in reality when you watch it it's just not that good because it's just especially if you know how far it leads, it's just not that great. Not terrible, just not that great. um I would say the last 10 minutes or 15 minutes of it are spectacular, even if you know where it leads. So I think it's not just a story about a psychological like a psychological thriller about like a lady maybe losing her mind. It's also about, I think, on a deeper level about motherhood and having a child and all the fears associated with it and all the people around you trying to get involved in your life and in your parenting, and you having a strained relationship with your husband over how taxing it is to have a child, especially this time where it was seen as a woman's job. I think a lot of these undertones also help it, but themes like that or uh, commentary like this is not what makes a movie good. It's just neat if a movie already works that it has these things for going for it. And I think I have to recommend Rosemary's Baby. but I just can't say it's that I enjoyed it that much, if that makes sense. It's a weird recommendation to make, which will mean that by the end of this, yeah, watch Rosemary's Baby and watch The Omen, and maybe The Omen 2. And I think I'll end it here. So if you want to read some of my reviews more in depth, not all of them are that detailed, I would say, but some of them are. You can check out my letterbox at The Robot Quits, which will also be in the description. And yeah, take care.